How do runners destroy their longevity? By which I mean still running injury-free, energized for the next 10, 20, 30 years. How do runners destroy that without even realizing? Well, it comes down to the habits they have. Now, if your Instagram algorithm is anything like mine, it's probably full of running content. And you're scrolling, and sometimes I've seen these reels of 80, 90-year-olds crossing finish lines of marathons. And it's like, wow, that's so uplifting. I want that in my future. But then you feel like, is that actually going to happen? Is that realistic? Because the reality is you might see your parents or grandparents just struggling to get out of a chair. And that's making me think, well, how do I avoid that fate? This is especially worrying when we look at the statistics, because 75 to 85-year-olds, there's a percentage of 42.7% that can't do complex walking tasks. And all that really means is walking around obstacles or on uneven terrain. That's almost half. And that stat increases to 77% on those aged over 85. That's just walking on difficult terrain, let alone running and being fit and healthy. But the good news is I've found 7 key mistakes that runners make in the longevity space that are completely changeable, that you can start putting into practice off the back of this video and actually start seeing some increases in energy, mood, performance, and starting to bulletproof your long-term self so that you can keep running into your older years. Now, most of these are nutrition related, as I'm a registered sport nutritionist. However, the last one is designed to help you unlock internal motivation, which is going to help you continue wanting to run at a subconscious level long term. This video is for people who actually want to take action towards their future self. So if you're just interested in a quick fix, then please click off now. Because obviously, to have longevity-based results, we need to address the habits that we have consistently, make change so that that time with the new habits compound and gives us that result long term. Let's address those key 7 habits now. This video is for people who actually want to take action towards improving their future self. So if you're interested in a quick fix, I want you to click off now. I'm going to show you a quick clip of client Jason Poovey after our last session of coaching, just to give you a feel for what it can be like to experience some of the benefits and changes off the back of these new habits.
Yeah, I'm happier, my mood's gone up, my energy's gone up, I'm sleeping better, everything's good. Do you know what I mean? I can't think of a single negative. So, no, honestly, God, mate, I'm going to miss it, to be honest.
Right. If you want a bit of that, time to take action. Let's get into it. Mistake number 1 is no or low amounts of probiotic foods in the diet. Now, we know that having a healthy microbiome is associated with longevity. What is a healthy microbiome? Well, if you were to send off a stool sample to a lab to get analyzed, one of the key things that they're testing is the variety of different bacteria. How do we generate a wide range of different bacteria? Well, I'm going to reference a paper, and I'll put the reference in the notes from this video. They looked at increasing the amount of fiber and increasing the amount of probiotic foods in 2 groups. So they found that the fiber group was good. It increased the amount of digestive enzymes for carbohydrate, helping with the digestion, metabolism, fermentation of fiber. However, the group that did a ramp, increasing the amount of probiotic foods, statistically different in terms of the range of new bacteria coming in, those healthy strains. So instead of just thinking about vegetables, fruit, whole grains, yes, we want to keep doing that, but we also now want to start building in a range of new probiotic foods. How do you do this practically? Review how many probiotic foods are in your diet at the moment. It's likely that you're in the West, you may only have yogurt that's coming in fairly regularly. So consider things like kefir, adding them to your soaked oats. Consider adding some kimchi or sauerkraut to your salads or sandwiches. Consider having a miso soup every now and again. Maybe buy some kombucha. We want to try and have 2, 3 portions of probiotic foods coming in most days. That's really going to do wonders for your range of bacteria in your microbiome. Mistake number 2 is the misuse of caffeine. We often forget that caffeine is a drug. It's a legal drug. Now, what do I mean by the misuse? Well, this is for you if you're someone who, James, I can have a coffee before bed and I'll still be able to get off to sleep. That sleep is going to have a reduced quality. Now, we know that sleep duration and quality is going to be linked to longevity. I don't think anyone's arguing with that. What can we do nutritionally though that's going to have an impact on sleep? Caffeine is one of the biggest factors, and it's one of the first things I change for clients who are having a huge amount. By dropping it down, we improve sleep quality, we wake with more energy, we enjoy our running better, and we want to keep doing it longer term. To actually understand that though, and I'm not saying you can't have coffee because we can always move to decaf, but to understand it on a deeper level, let me explain why. The half-life of caffeine. So if you were to have a double espresso, that might be 150 to 200 milligrams of caffeine. Just to make the maths easy, let me go with with the higher number, 200, so it's a little bit more round. If you have that at 8 a.m. in the morning, caffeine has a half-life of between 5 to 8 hours. So if you metabolize it quickly, it might be 5. If you metabolize it slowly, it might be 8, or somewhere in the middle. So let's say we go with 6 hours. You metabolize it fairly quickly. 8 o'clock, you have your double espresso, 200 milligrams of caffeine. 6 hours on, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2. By 2 p.m., instead of having 200 milligrams in your system, it's a half-life. So you now have 100 milligrams in your system. Then another 6 hours. So by 8 p.m., you now have half again. So you now have 50 milligrams of caffeine in your system. Probably not going to bed by 8 p.m., but by maybe 10, 11, 12, you've got half again. So 25 milligrams of caffeine by the time you go to bed. That's not going to have a big impact on your sleep quality. However, that is with one coffee at 8 a.m. What happens when we have that one coffee in the afternoon? Obviously, we now have 100 milligrams of caffeine in our system when we're trying to be going to bed. That is going to have an impact on sleep quality. That's just with one coffee though at 3 p.m. What happens when we have one in the morning, then we have another mid-morning, then we need a pick-me-up mid-afternoon? Suddenly we have a huge amount of caffeine in our system and we're trying to go to sleep and we're therefore not waking up feeling energized. That is going to be having a massive impact on how you sleep. We need to fix this. How do we do it? I would recommend moving to decaf after 12 p.m. and limiting yourself to 1 or max 2 coffees in the morning, ideally starting earlier. What that might mean is you might need to find some good decaf coffee beans so that if the ritual is there and you like drinking coffee, coffee is a healthy drink. I'm not going to stop you drinking coffee. However, I might suggest going for the decaffeinated version so that we can capture the benefits of high quality sleep. Mistake number 3 is having a moderate or even a low protein intake. Now, we know that as we age, we actually have an increasing demand for more protein. The reason for that is as we age, there's a blunting of muscle protein synthesis. So how do we get around this? We have to eat a bit more protein. So ironically, the people having the shakes, the kids, the teenagers, the early 20-year-olds at the gym, they actually need less protein than the 60, 70-year-olds. In which case, we need to focus on the habits that you have now in mid-age to ensure that there is enough protein coming in consistently so that as you age, those habits are ingrained. How do you know if you're having enough protein? We actually might want to consider tracking a day, but first we want to really quantify our terms. What is high protein? I would suggest that the recommended daily allowance, 0.8 up to 1.2 grams per kilogram of body weight, is quite low protein. High protein is going to be 1.6 to 2 grams per kilogram of body weight. So if you log your diet and you're consistently in the 1 gram per kilogram body weight, for example, if you're 80 kilos or 70 kilos and the amount of protein that you consume over the day is 70 grams or 80 grams, we might want to think, I need to change some of my habits here and really build in more protein to my main meals. The tip I really go for with coaching with clients is having an obvious high protein food in most of your main meals. If you can do that, the chances are you're going to be getting close to this high protein total. It's all about consistency. Every single day trying to eat high protein. That's going to enable you to recover and bounce back from runs better and really give you the longevity within the sport that you're craving. Mistake number 4 is not fueling for the type of session that you're doing as a runner. So this might be, you might have a handful of sessions throughout the week and your nutrition stays the same. If, however, though, some of those sessions are intense sessions, some of them are easier and we're eating the same, it might result in our fueling, meaning that our petrol tank is low. So if we do a hard session and then another hard session the following day and we haven't eaten enough between, we might be going into that second session with a low tank. Then we're sending a signal to our body to try and push hard without the appropriate fuel source to provide that intensity. That's quite a stressful thing for our body. We want to try and minimize that stress on our body to have long-term healthy aging. There's also links between low energy availability and low muscle glycogen training with increasing risk of picking up coughs and colds. We're basically increasing risk of our immunity suffering. If we're picking up more coughs and colds, we're not running as much, we're not enjoying the activity that we love. So focusing on the type of session you have and trying to vary the amount of carbohydrate before and after, depending on the intensity and duration. The longer and the harder, let's eat a bit more food to support that. On the days when you're doing less, back off a little bit. Simple as that. Mistake number 5 is not enough fiber. Now, if you've watched any of my other videos, you know that I sometimes recommend reducing fiber intake ahead of long runs because we don't want to have that risk of unwanted lower body GI issues. However, outside of that, we want to focus on our fueling meals. So meals that aren't directly before or immediately after sessions, we want to focus on the meals where you've got time to digest before you're going into your next session. We want to make sure that they are full of high fiber whole foods. So namely, increasing the amount of fruit, vegetables, whole grains, nuts and seeds that are coming coming in those meals. High fiber diets are associated with lots of health and longevity outcomes. We know that they're going to reduce the risk of diabetes because they're going to improve insulin control. We know that they're going to help cardiovascular disease risk and also body weight and body composition management. Those are things that are going to enable you as a runner to keep running long term. So main habit here is doubling down on your portion of veggies in your main meals. Number 6 is resistance training. Now, you knew this one had to be in the list. Doing some resistance training is going to help with injury prevention. That's going to help enable you to continue running long term. It's also probably going to help with your performance. Now, this doesn't mean you've got to go out and join a gym and put yourself on show. If you do want to do that, maybe consider getting some coaching so that you can have someone being critical with your movement patterns. Or if you're not going to go to a gym, even doing something as a starting point of doing some body weight exercises in your own house. What I would recommend if you're very new to doing some resistance training is using our friend ChatGTP and typing in, write me 2 or 3 days a week, maybe even 1 at the start, or maybe a 1, 2 or 3 days a week, full body weight exercise plan to kickstart me with my resistance training to help with my running. Say that you want it to last 30 minutes, 45 minutes, however long that you have. Give it as much specifics as you can to your situation and any illnesses or injuries or niggles that you have so it can tailor a plan to you. Then start. If you're currently thinking, I can't do that, I don't know what I'm doing, I want you to think, right, I need to do something about this. So we're going to use ChatGPT to give some guidance. If it comes up with exercises that you don't know what they are, this is a learning opportunity. Jump on YouTube, copy and paste that exercise in. I'm sure you'll be able to find a video of someone doing it. Try and copy that. Find if it's too difficult and you think, oh, I don't know, I can't continue to do that, it's too hard. Type into ChatGPT, please can you do a regression for this exercise? How can you make it easier to suit my needs? That way we can slowly build a plan that's personalized to you. It's all about the consistency with this. So instead of saying, right, from the off, I've never done resistance training, I'm gonna do that 3 days a week that James said. No, let's start with 1. Let's see how you get on. Let's try and find some exercises and movements that you feel good doing, because doing something is better than doing nothing. Now I tease that this last tip is about our psychology, and it really comes down to our motivation for wanting to continue to run long term. Because most runners don't fail because they're not disciplined. They fail because their motivation is fragile. So if your motivation depends on external rewards, ultimately that is going to run out. The biggest shift you can make for long-term consistency is changing from external or extrinsic motivation towards internal or intrinsic motivation. Let me give you a few examples. So I want you now to think, why do I run? Now, if you're currently extrinsically motivated, you might resonate with some of these. So extrinsically motivated would be running for a race medal. Maybe it's trying to hit a certain time or a certain Strava stat, or maybe it's the external things people say about us as a runner. Oh, like it's the reward, it's the praise that they give us. Now these motivators do work, but they're fairly short term and they're fairly fickle. And there's actually evidence to support that these rewards aren't as long lasting as intrinsic motivation. Now intrinsic motivation is the belief that the act of running itself has value. Maybe you run because you like the feel of running. Maybe you run because you like how running makes you feel, or you're enjoying the process of progress. Maybe it supports your identity. You feel like you're a runner. The reward, therefore, isn't the outcome of the running, it's the running itself. So the key distinction is extrinsic, I'll get something if I run, and intrinsic, I run because this matters to me. Now those external rewards are finite and they're ultimately out of your control. So now think through which of the 7 mistakes resonate most with you and start acting on that one. Take action, do something about it so that you can enjoy the next 10, 20, 30 plus years running, doing the sport that you love. If you like this video, feel free to subscribe to my channel and maybe look back through some of my previous content. There's a lot of stuff on there regarding nutrition for running. I'll see you in the next one.